I'm going to tell you about the exact moment Michael Chen decided to become a millionaire. But here's the shocking part. When he made that decision, he was sitting on a cardboard box behind a dumpster, eating a half-eaten sandwich he found in the trash. He had 17 cents in his pocket, no phone, no home, and no one who believed in him. What happened next will blow your mind, because just 5 years later, he bought the exact building where he used to sleep on the street. But wait, before we get to that incredible moment, you need to hear what happened on day 23 of him being homeless. This one event changed everything, and it's not what you think. Stay with me, because the twist at the end of this story will leave you speechless. The rain was relentless that November night in Seattle. While most people complained about getting their hair wet running from their cars to their warm homes, Michael Chen was trying to find a dry spot under the I-5 overpass. At 28 years old, he had officially been homeless for exactly 23 days. But who's counting, right? Michael was. He counted every single day, every single hour, because each one felt like a lifetime. Just 6 months earlier, Michael's life looked completely different. He was a junior software developer at a promising tech startup, renting a decent apartment, and dating a woman he thought he'd marry. Life wasn't perfect, but it was stable, predictable, safe. But then the startup went bankrupt overnight. The CEO had been embezzling funds, and suddenly 300 employees were jobless with no severance, no warning, and no backup plan. Michael burned through his small savings in 2 months, trying to keep his apartment. When that money ran out, his girlfriend left. His friends slowly stopped returning calls. And just like that, Michael found himself with 2 garbage bags of belongings and nowhere to go. The first week of homelessness was surreal. Michael kept thinking someone would rescue him, that somehow the universe would correct this obvious mistake. He was educated. He had skills. This wasn't supposed to happen to people like him. But the universe doesn't care about what's supposed to happen. Reality hit him like a freight train when he realized that nobody was coming to save him. If his life was going to change, he would have to be the one to change it. On day 23, that pivotal day I mentioned, something happened that would alter the trajectory of Michael's entire existence. He was sitting outside a Starbucks, hoping someone would leave a laptop unattended for just a moment so he could check job applications. He wasn't proud of what he'd become, but desperation makes you consider things you never thought possible. That's when he overheard a conversation between 2 business executives sitting at the outside table. The problem with most people, one man said, adjusting his expensive watch, is that they wait for opportunities to find them. Millionaires don't wait. They create opportunities out of thin air. The other man laughed. Easy to say when you're already wealthy. That's where you're wrong, the first man replied. I started with nothing. Less than nothing. I started with debt and a criminal record. But I learned something crucial. Your current circumstances are just data points, not destinations. Every millionaire was once broke. The only difference is what they did while they were broke. Michael sat frozen, pretending not to listen, but absorbing every single word. That night, shivering under his thin blanket behind a closed furniture store, Michael made a decision that would sound insane to anyone who heard it. He decided he was going to become a millionaire. Not someday, not when things got better. Starting right now from rock bottom with 17 cents and a smartphone with 3% battery life that he charged at public libraries. People experiencing homelessness are invisible to most of society, but Michael realized that invisibility could be an advantage. He started observing everything. While other homeless individuals asked for spare change, Michael positioned himself outside the offices of successful companies during lunch hours. He listened to business conversations. He studied how wealthy people dressed, talked, and carried themselves. He noticed patterns, the apps they used, the problems they complained about, the opportunities they mentioned. Michael spent his days at the public library, not just looking for jobs, but educating himself. He devoured every book on entrepreneurship, coding, sales, and psychology he could find. He used the library computers to take free online courses in advanced programming languages. When the library closed, he went to 24-hour coffee shops, buying the cheapest thing on the menu and nursing it for hours while he worked on building a portfolio website using free hosting services. But here's where Michael's strategy became genius. And this is the part that changed everything. He realized that most startups and small businesses couldn't afford high-quality software developers, but they desperately needed basic websites, apps, and automated systems. Michael started offering his services for free. Yes, free. He would approach small business owners and say, "I'll build you a professional website at no cost. If you like it, you can pay me whatever you think it's worth. If you don't like it, you owe me nothing." People thought he was crazy. Some thought it was a scam, but a few took him up on the offer. Michael would work all night on these projects in a 24-hour diner, running on coffee and determination. He delivered exceptional work, better than what these businesses could have gotten from expensive agencies. And here's what happened. Every single client paid him. Not only paid him, but paid him generously and referred him to others. Within 2 months, Michael had earned enough to rent a room in a shared house. It wasn't much, a mattress on the floor of a basement room, but it was warm, dry, and had Wi-Fi. He kept living like he was still homeless, spending almost nothing and saving every dollar. His roommates thought he was strange because he owned almost nothing and worked 18-hour days. But Michael had a vision that no one else could see yet. The breakthrough came on month 7. One of Michael's small business clients was friends with the CTO of a major e-commerce company. The CTO had a problem. They needed a custom inventory management system built, but every developer they consulted wanted 6 months and $200,000. Michael studied the problem for 3 days straight, barely sleeping, and came back with a proposal. He would build it in 6 weeks for $50,000. And if it didn't work perfectly, they wouldn't pay him a cent. It was an insane gamble. Michael had never built something that complex. If he failed, he'd waste 6 weeks with no income. But he believed in himself in a way that only someone who has lost everything and rebuilt from nothing can believe. He worked like a man possessed, 16 to 20 hours a day, teaching himself new technologies on the fly, testing and retesting every line of code. He delivered in 5 weeks. The system worked flawlessly. The CTO was so impressed that he not only paid Michael the full $50,000, but he also introduced him to 5 other companies with similar problems. Michael suddenly had more work than he could handle alone. This is where most people would have celebrated and relaxed. Not Michael. He remembered sitting behind that dumpster. He remembered the rain, the cold, the fear. He was just getting started. Michael hired 3 other developers, people he'd met at the library who were also struggling to find work. He didn't hire them as employees. He made them partners. He found people who were hungry, overlooked, and underestimated, just like he had been. Together, they formed a development agency that specialized in solving impossible problems for mid-sized companies that bigger agencies ignored. The business exploded. Within a year, they had 20 clients and were generating $2 million in annual revenue. Within 2 years, they had 50 employees and had opened offices in 3 cities. Michael's personal income crossed the $1 million mark in year 3. But here's the part that makes this story truly special. Michael never forgot where he came from. On the 5-year anniversary of his first night being homeless, Michael did something extraordinary. He bought the building, that exact furniture store where he used to sleep behind the dumpster. But he didn't turn it into fancy offices or condos. He converted it into a technology training center and co-working space specifically for homeless individuals and people experiencing poverty. He called it Second Chance Tech. The program was simple but revolutionary. Any person experiencing homelessness could come to the center and receive free training in web development, coding, and digital marketing. They got access to computers, internet, showers, clean clothes for interviews, and most importantly, belief that they could change their circumstances. Michael personally funded the first year of operations out of his own pocket, $800,000. People thought he was crazy again. Why would homeless people want to learn coding? Wouldn't they just want handouts? But Michael knew something others didn't. He knew that beneath every homeless person's circumstances was a human being with potential, dreams, and capabilities that society had written off. In the first year, Second Chance Tech trained 150 people. 82 of them found employment in tech roles within 6 months. 3 moved into permanent housing. 12 started their own businesses. The media caught wind of the story. CNN, Forbes, and TED Talks all wanted to feature Michael. But during every interview, Michael refused to position himself as a hero. "I'm not special," he would say. "I just refuse to let my temporary circumstances define my permanent identity." Every person experiencing homelessness is one decision, one opportunity, one belief away from a completely different life. Today, Michael's company is worth over $50 million. He has personally donated over $5 million to homelessness initiatives. Second Chance Tech has expanded to 12 cities and has helped over 2,000 people transition from homelessness to careers in technology. But if you ask Michael what his greatest achievement is, he won't talk about the money or the business success. He'll tell you about Marcus, a 53-year-old military veteran who was homeless for 7 years, came through the program, and is now a senior developer making 6 figures. Or about Jennifer, a single mother who learned web design at the center and now runs her own digital agency employing 5 people. Michael keeps a photograph on his desk. It's not of his company or his awards. It's a picture of that furniture store, the one where he used to sleep behind the dumpster. Below the photo is a quote he wrote himself: "Your current address doesn't determine your final destination. Your current bank account doesn't determine your future wealth. Your current circumstances don't determine your ultimate potential. The only thing that determines your future is what you decide to do right now, in this moment, with what you have." Here's the twist I promised you, the part that makes this story even more incredible. Remember that conversation Michael overheard outside Starbucks on day 23? The businessman who said millionaires create opportunities out of thin air. 5 years later, at a business conference, Michael met that man. His name was Richard Torres, and he was a self-made multimillionaire. Michael approached him and said, "You probably don't remember me, but 5 years ago you were sitting outside a Starbucks, and I overheard you talking about creating opportunities. I was homeless at the time, and your words changed my life." Richard stared at him in disbelief. Then he did something unexpected. He started crying. "I remember that day," Richard said. "I was having the worst week of my career. I just lost a major deal, and I was questioning everything. I was trying to convince myself as much as the person I was talking to. I had no idea anyone was listening, and I certainly had no idea those words would change someone's life." The two men became close friends and eventually business partners. Richard invested in Second Chance Tech, helping it scale nationally. He told Michael something profound: the universe doesn't waste words. Every conversation, every moment, every struggle is preparing you for something greater. Your homelessness wasn't a punishment, it was a preparation. It gave you the perspective, the hunger, and the empathy that made you into who you are today. Michael Chen's story isn't just about becoming a millionaire. It's about the power of decision, the importance of action, and the truth that your current reality is just a starting point, not a prison sentence. It's about understanding that every successful person you admire was once at the bottom, looking up, wondering if they'd ever make it. The only difference between those who make it and those who don't isn't talent, luck, or privilege. It's the decision to keep going when every logical reason says to quit. Today, when Michael speaks at events, he always starts by asking the audience, "Where were you 5 years ago? What seemed impossible then, that's normal now?" Then he pauses and says, "Now, imagine where you could be 5 years from today if you started right now, not tomorrow, not when things get better, but right now, with exactly what you have in this moment." Michael Chen went from 17 cents in a cardboard box to a $50 million empire in 5 years. But his real wealth isn't in his bank account. It's in the thousands of lives he's transformed by proving that impossible is just an opinion, not a fact. His message is simple but powerful. The best time to start building your dream life was 5 years ago. The second best time is right now. Don't wait for perfect circumstances. Start with what you have, where you are, and watch what happens when you refuse to give up on yourself. Your circumstances are temporary. Your determination is permanent. Never forget that. If Michael's story inspired you, imagine what you could accomplish if you stopped waiting and started creating. Drop a comment telling me, what's the one thing you're going to start today? And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them right now. You might just change their life. Subscribe for more stories that prove anything is possible. See you in the next one.